Welcome back. This is session 3 of the podcast guesting masterclass. I am your host, Jessica Rhodes, the founder and co-owner of Interview Connections. And since 2013, we've booked over 30,000 podcast interviews for more than 800 entrepreneurs. And if you're here, it's because you have knowledge to share. You have a strategy, a methodology, a way of working that you know has the power to change lives. And it is your duty, it is your responsibility to do everything in your power to make that knowledge available to the people who need it. And I want to tell you a quick story from my personal life that I've not shared publicly until today. My 9-year-old daughter is a competitive all-star cheerleader. And back in October, she started having heel pain. And eventually she complained enough where we're like, we should probably go to a podiatrist. So we went to a podiatrist. They didn't know the answer. They just threw her in a boot. And I don't like to sit around and wait and see. So I was taking her to a chiropractor, to an acupuncture. I'm talking to other moms in the gym, like talking to everyone. And just for months, there was zero diagnosis other than like, not really sure what's going on. And we're all entrepreneurs here, so we don't really do well with not sure what's going on. Like there's an answer out there. I know there's enough experts who have answers to literally problems I don't even know exist. So I'm like, no, I am not resting until I have this problem solved. Because like as a parent, when your child is in pain, you just can't rest. And so finally, just a couple weeks ago, we moved to a different doctor who quickly, he saw the x-ray report, he diagnosed the pain. He goes, she should be better in a couple of weeks with physical therapy. And he diagnosed it. It's something called Seaver's disease. And anytime you hear the word disease, you're like, ugh. But it's not that big of a deal. It's very common in child athletes, and it's easily treatable with physical therapy. So after months of various medical professionals having zero idea what was wrong, we are now on the path to her being fully healed within a couple of weeks. So why am I sharing all of my personal information with you in a class about podcast guesting? I will tell you. This knowledge about this ailment called Seaver's disease is not mainstream. I talk to so many people, like our chiropractor is an athlete. You would think people would know about this, but it's not mainstream to the point where a podiatrist didn't even know. I had to move to a second podiatrist who had more knowledge and information. And had this information been more widely known, been more mainstream, had more people in the athlete community around us known about it, she could have been out of pain months ago. Knowledge that is mainstream becomes mainstream because one expert blazes a trail. They speak, they write, they post, they get on podcasts, they start podcasts, they write books. They don't stop until they die. Like they don't stop until they have done their work. And then they blaze this trail, and then other people talk about it. So think about anything today that is mainstream knowledge. It wasn't mainstream that long ago, most likely. There's so many things now that just weren't mainstream. Like I think about, therapy, for example. You watch a show in the early 2000s, like I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan. They're not into self-help in the early 2000s. Like it has become mainstream because people like you are out there speaking on podcasts and sharing your knowledge and educating people on something that can really help them. So I'm so much more passionate now than I even have been before because I see the effect it has on our personal lives. You have knowledge that can change lives, and it is your responsibility. It is your God-given duty to get out there and make sure the people who need you can easily find you. And that's why I love podcast guesting, because it's a really easy way to make your knowledge heard. By you getting interviewed on podcasts that people are listening to, seeking information, you're making it easy for them to find you, to learn, and for you, of course, to grow your business. That's like a side benefit to you changing the world, is that you're also going to grow your business. So if you are ready to answer this calling, then book a call with us at Interview Connections, because you've heard me talk about the Amplified Authority program a few times in this masterclass. We get you on 30 podcasts over about a year, 10 to 12 months. These are targeted shows that are aligned with your target audience and your goals and your expertise. We're going to make your podcast one sheet and your media kit. You're going to get 2 interview audits. So we'll be personally coaching you and guiding you to make sure you're being super effective as a podcast guest. And you'll also get coaching and networking opportunities to really see incredible growth in your business this year from this step you're taking into podcast guesting. And so you can go to interviewconnections.com/call to book a call, and we'll put the link in the chat and below this video if you're catching us on replay. The investment for this program normally is $17K or 10 payments of $1850. Now, for those of you who joined during this masterclass, which ends on Tuesday, January 21st, you can invest at $16K or 10 payments of $1750. We're going to give you some bonuses like a podcast essentials bundle kit. So a microphone stand, a ring light, everything you need to be on podcasts and sound and look amazing. And then also we have some special bonuses. We actually have 3 more pay in full bonuses. So we've actually had 2 people claim the 5 pay in full bonuses, which is to have your one sheet written for you. So take action now. Our calendar is filling up. We've had record breaking live attendance this week. I'm so excited and so happy that more people are getting on podcasts. So book a call at interviewconnections.com/call. And if you're on the fence, maybe about moving forward or about booking the call, and you just are like, is this going to work for me? We have an incredible lineup of speakers, people who not that long ago are where you are now. They were sitting in this masterclass, they were learning about podcast guesting, and they took the action. They moved forward, they booked the call, they signed up, and they've had incredible results. So I'm so excited to share the stage with them and to bring their stories to you today. And so first up, we have an incredible entrepreneur who, speaking of sharing knowledge that people desperately need, when he's out there on podcasts, his business is blowing up because he's bringing knowledge to people who are really struggling with a situation. And so I'm going to let him tell you about that. So we've got Carlos. Carlos, come on up on the stage. Douglas is going to unmute you.
Good morning, Jessica. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I am doing absolutely amazing. And so, Carlos, introduce yourself. Tell us about your business and the problem you help people solve. And then we'll go into how podcast guesting has been working for you.
Oh, absolutely. My name is Carlos Samaniego. I run a business in Southern California called Tax Debt Consultants. And my business specifically deals with helping people deal with IRS problems. Things like having tax balances that they're unable to pay, haven't filed tax returns in years, or their businesses haven't paid payroll taxes. So basically, I always tell people, I'm the last person you want to hire, because if the IRS or the state is coming after you and trying to collect money from you, that's what I do. And I got this in a unique way, and I've shared this with Jessica and the team quite a bit, is the reason I do this type of work is because I went 8 years in my 20s not filing my own taxes. And then I ended up, almost 10 years later, marrying my wife and still hadn't resolved the issue. And I never told her about the situation. So I literally married her. She married into my problems. And luckily, and it was a scumbag move. And I talk about that in one of my books, Love and Taxes. It was a scumbag move to do. But what was great about it is that we came out of it becoming the co-founders of our company, Tax Debt Consultants. And now we help other people solve those tax problems.
Yeah. And talk about a subject, right? So people who are, drowning in debt to the IRS, they have no idea what to do. They're overwhelmed. They have this bill and they are just struggling. And then they hear you on a podcast. Mm-hmm. And what happens when they hear you, and what's been happening in your business since you've been getting on podcasts more?
Oh, it's just, when they hear my story, what everybody literally hears is that the people that are dealing with this type of situation, that's me. Because this is a problem that most people, nobody really talks about. Who do you talk to in regards to, I'm not filing my taxes, or I owe a lot of money? Heck, people don't tell, it's not like a table topic at the bar situation. Oh, I'm not filing my taxes, right? And look at me, you don't tell family members. Who do you go to? So by getting on these podcasts and sharing that story, people's like, wow, there's actually people that, one, handle these types of problems. I didn't even know there were actually specific people that handle those types of problems. They had no idea that, you can't go down to your local H&R Block to, hey, can you solve my tax problems? That's not something that they do. So nobody knows that this specialty exists. So by getting on the podcast, for a lot of times, it's the first time someone has ever heard that there's a someone that can really help me and resolve that situation. And the podcast is just, it's exploding. It's amazing because they hear these stories, and I we'll talk about what happened on one of the podcasts that you guys got me on. The story resonated so much. He literally said, "I got to get you on a master class to all these real estate agents across the country." So it's been an amazing experience so far.
Yeah. And you told me when we had our consultation call, you said real estate agents are a common target market for you because people who earn their income through like 1099 or contract work, it's different than being a W-2 employee where all your taxes are kind of like managed throughout. You need to be saving. Like as an entrepreneur, I always have money set aside for my taxes. I know what percentage of my profit I put aside for taxes, but a lot of people don't even know to do that, you know? And so,
Exactly, because like when you get a paycheck, they automatically take out the taxes. Nothing you got to really worry about, unless you did what I did. You switched it up so they wouldn't take the taxes. Something you don't want to do. But for self-employed people, you're right, Jessica. Most people have no idea that the profit that you just earned is not all of yours. The government wants their share of it, and usually it's multiple government agencies want their share of it. And sometimes people, they struggle one year, and that one year, and that's kind of what happened with me. I struggled one year. I didn't file the taxes because I couldn't afford to pay it. That's the worst thing you can do. And then the next year rolls around pretty quick. And you know what? All of us are old enough to know years go by really quick. So one year can turn to 2 years, can turn to 10 years. And I mean, that's literally what happened to me. And that's happening to people all across this country.
yeah, and I want everyone put it in the chat because we've got a group of entrepreneurs here. We're innovators, we're visionaries. Who here has ever been told by either a lead or a client, I didn't even know someone like you existed? I've definitely been told that. I didn't even know this like podcast booking. I didn't even know that existed. Who here has been told that? Yeah, Mel, absolutely. Human design, didn't even know it existed until like last year.
I
So
didn't even know a podcast guest, podcast, the work that you do existed. So, I
yeah.
literally tried my own podcast, and was trying that, and I'm like trying to come up with subjects, and and I still have it, but you know what? That's challenging. That's a lot of work. And then here's the thing: nobody knew who I was. So, very few people found it. But now I'm just getting on shows that they already have an audience of people that would need my type of service. So it's just so much easier to do it this way.
Yes. And I love everyone saying, like, me, yes, absolutely, me too. Because look at, we are all in a community. We all, like, likely every single person in this room right now watching this masterclass has a different business. I see we've got human design, we've got coaching. I think we've got some medical professionals here. Like, everyone here does something different, but we all, most of us here have been told, like, I didn't even know your business existed because you're a visionary, because you're an innovator, you do something very unique, which is why podcast guesting has to be such a critical part of your plan because education needs to be a line item on your P&L. Like you always have to be educating. It's not just marketing, it's educating. That is the purpose of your marketing is to educate people and let people know that you exist. So Carlos, if you can share any, like I know you said it's blowing up, you spoke at someone's like you did a master class for someone's whole client community. Are you able to share with us any numbers so people can kind of understand, like when did you sign up with Interview Connections? And then like, what does your ROI look like? Anything that you can share from that angle?
I can tell you this. I don't remember exactly when. I've already done
In less than a year, like
less than a year because
yeah.
I've already been on. I'm looking at it, 9 different podcasts. 5 more already booked, and 3 more that we're booking. So here's what I can share. And I like to use this. When I was trying to make this decision, kind of sitting here like everybody else, I'm just going, wow, okay, I see what the investment is. But here's what I did. I looked at how many clients would I need to get a return on this investment? And it literally came down to three clients. That's all I would need. So if I can't get 3 clients in an entire year of doing guest podcasting, there's something wrong with me, me personally, right? So I made the investment. I just jumped in, and I can tell you one podcast, just one. I've already had 5 clients on one podcast.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So, and the thing is, and you said it at the beginning, Jessica, is I do a lot of stuff. Guest podcasting. I had my own podcast. You have your website. You have your books. And what happens is that with a lot of these times, sometimes they'll just listen to your podcast and like, well, who is this guy? Then they just start doing their research. and they see you on other podcasts, and then they see your website, and then they see the books that you're doing. So it's just part of the overall plan that just makes this, it's like perfect in my
I love
situation,
it.
definitely.
And any best practices or tips for success for people that are just getting into guest podcasting and they're going to take the plunge, they're going to start getting interviewed? You've had such amazing results. Like any best practices or tips for success that you can share with our audience?
Best practice, I really feel is, initially I got worried. I'm like, oh my God, what are they going to start asking me? Think questions that I don't know or whatever it might be. And I've realized almost every one of these was just a conversation, just like me and you, Jessica. We're sitting here having a conversation. And that's literally, it's like the podcasters already know what's right for their audience, and they just have a conversation with you. And if you can sit down and have a conversation with somebody, and just be your natural, authentic self and not try to sell anything. Like I don't sell anything on my podcast. I literally just talk about who I am, what I do, and I offer my free book, How to Make the IRS an Offer They Can't Refuse, at taxdebtbook.com. That's the only offer I give them. It's just I'm giving them a free giveaway, and that's all I do. So bottom line, just have that natural conversation, be authentic with your guest host, and they'll do a great job they make you look really good, because like every time I finish up, they have a great little graphic for promoting, and then they give you the edited show. They kind of clean it up a little bit, so it looks amazing. So it's like an all around package that just gets done for you.
I love it. Yeah. And Carlos, he really like LF session one, right? Laying a strong foundation. We got clear on his goals. We got clear on his target audience. He told me, real estate agents, they're very common in having tax debt problems. And so we looked at podcasts and we booked him on podcasts where, the host and their audience is made up of real estate agents. And that's what got him in front of that masterclass. So like everything I'm teaching you in this masterclass is going to set you on the path to success with this strategy, knowing your goals, knowing your target audience, and then getting on the court and doing it. Because learning is one thing, but taking action is really where you get the results. And so Carlos took action and he's got a great return on investment from his investment in the Amplified Authority program. So take action, book a call at interviewconnections.com/call. And Carlos, give us that CTA again for those who are like, I've got tax debt. I need help. Where can they
Oh,
find
absolutely. You can go to, I'll pop it in here. It's taxdebtbook.com, and you can get a free copy of my book, How to Make the IRS an Offer They Can't Refuse. If you bought it on Amazon, it's like $15. Get it here for free. But that's what I do. One last thing, Jessica, which
you?
I
Yeah.
love about your team. On our last call, we were just talking about, and me and my wife co-wrote a book called Love and Taxes, How Couples Can Resolve Their Tax Problems. Because we get a lot of people that are couples that have tax problems, or couples that want to get married but won't get married because they got tax problems. So I had kind of brought that up to you guys, and you're like, well, why don't we get on some couple shows or relationship shows coming up, because February is around the corner, Valentine's Day. So like I'm making a big push on that book, and now you guys are kind of shifting over the strategy, at least for the next month or two here, and get on some relationship shows. Why not?
Yeah, our team is so good at like hearing your ideas, bouncing ideas off each other. That's why it's great to work with Interview Connections, because we have a full-time team. Like our booking team members, they're full-time local employees. They're super smart. They really understand the strategy. And so when you're like, what about, couples? Like, well, what about this type of show? What about this type of show? So you don't just have to say, get me on these shows and we'll go do it. Like we're working together. So I love that. So tax debt book, which is a great call to action because it's easy to spell, it's easy to remember, and it's very high value. Like he said, $15 on Amazon, get it here for free. Everyone's going to go get it for free, which builds Carlos's email list. Is beautiful. Carlos, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your success story.
Well, thank you, Jessica. Thanks to your entire team for helping.
Thank you. All right. And ask your questions in the chat. This is a panel and it's also a Q&A. So if you have questions for our speakers, questions for me, like now is your time to ask questions. So you just put those in the chat. Next up, we have Wendy Cole. Let's get Wendy Cole up on the stage with me.
Oh, hi, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone.
Wendy, so good to see you. Oh my gosh.
I am a transition mentor. I was born transgender, and I've been living authentically for 10 years. I put my coaching work, because I coach other transgender people, I put my coaching work online in January of 2021. And in 2022, I got very disgusted with what was going on and all the bad information and everything out there. And I started looking for other ways to actually promote some social activism and make changes in society. And I was sitting in 2021 and 22 where you are currently sitting. And 2023, I moved from Pennsylvania. I came to Providence, Rhode Island. I got an apartment. I moved in on the 14th of July, and on the 15th of July, I met with Jessica and signed up. I couldn't wait. I didn't know anything really about podcasting. They were great at getting me in, teaching me, training me, helping me prepare. And it's all about, as Carlos said, having a conversation. And I love having conversations with people. And I've done almost 40 podcasts. What podcasting has done for me personally, the personal growth is phenomenal. I am very different from when I started. I am getting out there in more ways than I ever imagined. Social media wasn't doing it for me, but podcasting combined with social media and the content reuse is just amazing.
Wendy, can I jump in really quickly? Because I want to just take a quick poll of the community here. Who here nodded their head when she said, social media just isn't doing it for me? Like, who here kind of is like, maybe just put yes in the chat. Who here is like, social media? My God. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
Oh, well, I knew that this year my authority and recognition, not only within the transgender community nationally, has grown, but I've also become an authority outside the community, within society. And my whole thing is talking with people about this so that the right information gets out there. I had something happen this month. A person, a LinkedIn connection, reached out to me and said, I'm considering doing this project for the Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition. And I'm an expert on the subject matter, but I don't know anything about the community. I want to hire you as a consultant. Light bulbs went off. I went, wow. My last 18 years in the tech industry was as a consultant, going into corporations, developing systems for them to use globally. I loved consulting. I am going back into consulting. That's going to be my new and probably my primary revenue stream going forward. There is a lot of need for people in business and in corporations to really understand this, and I do. I've lived it. I am an authority on it, and I'm out there. I am not in the least bit shy or hesitant to do it. I was in a situation yesterday where I'm talking with this person, and I've never been in this kind of situation before. It was brand new for me, but I'm very open and very comfortable talking. And I started telling her about my consulting work. And she said to me, oh, Wendy, you need to get involved with the local politics in Providence and your idea of writing to Senator Whitehouse, because I used to consult for Senator Bob Casey in Pennsylvania when I lived there. I consulted with his staff in Harrisburg and the staff in DC on any issues they had that involved transgender. I'm going to volunteer my services as a consultant to them here in Rhode Island and who knows, beyond. I'm all about possibilities. Life is about possibilities, and it's only our beliefs that can either block them or stop us from achieving them. And podcast guesting has been phenomenal for me. I met another podcast host. We became friends, and we're starting a podcast all of our own. I call it Demystifying the Transgender Journey, And the idea is to put the right information, the lived life experience information out for society to understand, as opposed to all the BS that's out there now.
Wendy, you're so inspiring. And again, put questions in the chat if anyone has questions for me or Wendy or any of our speakers. Your growth, both in your business and you personally, how you deliver. Like, I actually want to hone in on how you deliver what you say, because it's simple, but it's not easy for people to deliver. It's a really important skill to be able to quickly say who you are, who you serve, and what you do. Because if you can capture people and hook people in that basically an elevator pitch, they want to keep listening, right? And so talk about how podcast guesting and working with the Interview Connections team has helped you get to a point where you're able to powerfully and confidently say who you are, what you do, who you help.
We started working on my one sheet, and my whole messaging began to really form differently than what I'd been doing for social media. It was wonderful. My coach was super helpful. We bounced ideas off of one another, and I can't say enough about how good the staff is to work with. I've revised my one sheet 3 times, I think, 2 or 3
We have a quick
times.
question in the chat. What is a one sheet? So the podcast one sheet is a one pager. It's a designed one page PDF that has your bio. It has topics and questions. We talked a little bit about it in session 1. So it is the one sheet that we show podcast hosts when we're pitching you as a guest. Continue.
Okay. And I absolutely have loved working with Interview Connections and their staff. They've been so supportive, so amazing. And the personal growth I've experienced, I have absolutely no fears of being out publicly and being visible. It's been a challenge to get there, but I'm good with it now. And I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have this new idea for a new revenue stream. I spoke with this lady who's going to do the project, and when she starts the project, I'm on board as her paid consultant. And that's what I'm going to start doing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be doing this were it not for podcasting.
Yeah, the conversations, the possibilities that are created from conversations, from being more visible and having people know about you and know who you are, it just opens up opportunities that, a year and a half ago when we were having coffee and you wrote a check to Interview Connections to start getting on podcasts, you did not say one day I want to be consulting for companies that are working with these associations. You were and are a coach, but through people hearing about you and seeing you speak, you show up to these master classes almost every time we do them to expose yourself to new people. Now people are coming to you and asking you, can you do this? Can you do this? Powerful.
It's been a wonderful experience, and the growth is just phenomenal. I couldn't have been happier doing this. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. So I love it. You're getting so much love in the chat. There was a question. Somebody asked if we're going to get a certificate for attending. And the answer is no. And the reason is you get a certificate for taking action. Learning is great, but implementing and taking action, there's no certificate that is as good as having the results that come from implementing podcast guesting in your business.
Exactly. And the whole idea of having a conversation, I have connected with more hosts. I've had gay hosts say to me, wow, I've learned so much from you. I connected with a podcast host who lives in Manhattan, and she and I have stayed in contact constantly. She told me at the end of our podcast, she's an LGBT advocate and ally. At the end of our podcast, we went back into the green room. She stopped the recording. She looked at me and said, "You're a teacher. You should be on stage. You should be out there. You should be more involved. And I told her today what I'm starting to do politically and professionally with businesses. And she's going to help me promote it.
Yeah, these podcast hosts become your partners in growing your business. Like I had a podcast that I was on last year, sometimes 6 months ago or so. The host of that show is organizing a summit and asked me to be one of the speakers. She said, I loved our conversation about podcast guesting, and I would love for you. I'm doing a summit about amplifying your brand online, and I would love for the podcast session to be like with you. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So when you get on podcasts, you're making impressions on people that have access to opportunities, to speaking opportunities, to clients, to communities. So it's an incredible opportunity for you to get your message out there in such a big way. Do you have any wisdom or tips for success for people that are going to start doing this or are on the fence?
If you have any thoughts about not doing it versus doing it, just go with your gut and do it. You will never regret it. Lots of really good things will unfold for you. You'll never know where that's going to lead, but it definitely will get you out there in ways that you have never imagined possible. Highly recommend, and good luck to you.
Where can our audience find you online?
Thank you, Jessica. MeetWendyCole.com. Jessica was the one that told me it was available, and I bought it.
You guys, I am here to do your GoDaddy searches. So give me the URL. That's what we're here for. We do weekly group coaching calls at Interview Connection. So when you invest in the Amplified Authority program, there's always a call. So if you've loved learning and coming to the podcast guesting masterclass and you're like, I want more like this, when you work with us to get on podcasts, there's also a call, like a 90-minute group coaching call every single week where you can come and learn. So one of the calls that we do every month is on the call to action. So if you're like, we can brainstorm, we can talk through your call to action, we'll hop onto GoDaddy, we'll find a URL like, Carla, taxdebtbook.com, meet Wendy Cole, like these URLs that are easy to remember that people will go to. So powerful tips on the call to action. Thank you so much, Wendy.
And don't be afraid to be authentically you and just put it all out there.
Someone just said, I always wonder why I was called GoDaddy. I've never wondered that, but now I am. So go to interviewconnections.com/call. We'll put the link in the chat again. We'll put the link below the video. Book your consultation call. This is your time. And I also want to share a tip for success in business is to be decisive. I think one of the biggest reasons that one of my biggest, kind of reasons I've become as successful as I have in business is I make very quick decisions. I listen to my gut, I listen to my intuition. And when I know something is right, like when my sacral authority says yes, and we've got Mel McSherry coming up next, you can explain what that is. When my intuition, my sacral authority says yes, I just move and do it. And when it says no, I say no. So that is my tip to you. If you're kind of like, I want to do this, decide, do it. And if it's a no, that's okay too. I'm not here to push everyone to do it. But if you're thinking about doing it and you feel like it's a good fit, do it. Make the decision, book the call, take action, because it's being in that indecision, the thinking about it, the considering it, you waste so much time there. So make a decision, book your call. Okay, next up, we have Mel McSherry. Mel, please come up and introduce yourself and tell everyone what the heck a sacral authority is.
Oh, hello, everyone. My name is Mel McSherry. My pronouns are they, she, and I am an international business and life guide where I help very inspired yet very overwhelmed entrepreneurs honor their lives and be the true architect of their success through utilizing a spiritual tool called human design in partnership with traditional business development tools and frameworks.
I love it. And so tell everyone what human design is and what I was saying about sacral authority. And while you do that, you guys, my toxic trait is that I don't keep my devices charged. So I need to switch over to my other microphone while Mel takes the stage. Okay.
So human design is a system that is a combination of several already well-standing formulas. And that is Kabbalah, I Ching, astrology, chakras, and quantum physics. And what it shows you is your energetic blueprint. I like to call it, it shows you your operations manual, because so often we have these pullings, right? We talk about our whys all the time, which is fantastic. Simon Sinek has just coined that to a T. But what we tend to get overwhelmed and disconnected to is our how. And then we get so overwhelmed by everything that we think we need to do, everything that people are telling us that we should do. And we don't go back to or understand how to connect to ourselves and what we already know to be true, because we each have a specific way that we work inside of our lives and inside of our businesses. So, with Jessica saying that she's a sacral authority, um, one of the parts that I do talk about when I work with clients, as well as on my one-on-one readings, is your authority. Each of us have a different authority, and spoiler alert, it is not your head, and very rarely is it your heart. It is predominantly either your sacral or you are what's called an emotional authority. And bits and pieces of information like that are so beautiful and so validating, because it helps us really understand our process. It really helps us understand our pace. And it gives us that trust that we can build inside of ourselves, as well as trust inside of our specific processes.
Yeah, and I know that part of your story is that before you knew that human design was a thing,
Mhm.
you I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were kind of like struggling to understand like why it was difficult, because I think you're a projector, right? Did you tell?
I am, yes.
Yeah, so like you work in so talk a little bit about what it was like before you knew it was a thing, and then like why are you so passionate about like helping other people know about it?
Yeah. So before I knew about human design, I was a very copy and paste, give me the gold star type of person. And I 100% subscribed to the, sleep is for the weak, entrepreneurs work a gazillion hours a day. And I was very structured and I was very busy. And on paper, I looked very successful. I was speaking all over the world. I was getting paid to speak. I was, doing all these fantastic things. And yet, every single day, I felt like I was internally battling with myself, because I was forcing myself to do these things, even though they didn't really feel right. And yes, I was getting results, but the results were very surface level. And I realized, and I was trying to figure out how I could be myself in my business. And then I realized I didn't know myself. I didn't know really who I was. I didn't really understand my best practices. I went through the majority of my life just being, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And yay. And then when I had my human design read, I always like to say human design found me in 2020, and I had my chart read. I sobbed, because it was the biggest piece of validation and confirmation that I could have ever received, to be like, I'm not crazy. I'm not lazy. That's why this is affecting me, or that's why this didn't work, or what that's why this did work. And all of a sudden, all of these shoulds and all of these gray areas became either can or can'ts, or completely black and white. And it was such a moment of clarity, to where that again gives me that confidence that even when things get murky, because we are human and we are in different environments all of the time, I now have an operations manual that I can consistently turn to and go, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm feeling. How can I move through it? What can I do to maintain my profitability mentally, emotionally, and financially as this transition is happening, or as I am receiving these new invitations and information?
That's incredible. And it's like before you know about something and then you learn about it and it changes your life, it does light a fire that, makes you want to get it out there, so that cuz then wow, if I'm feeling this way, if I felt this way, other people must be feeling that way. So talk to us about what your experience has been like the last year working with Interview Connections, getting on podcasts, like just share a little bit about what the journey has been.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's been absolutely amazing. You and I met actually like years ago,
Yeah.
and we connected instantly. And you were always in the back of my head. And 2023 was a really difficult year for me personally. It was a year that I decided to put my business kind of on autopilot and really focus on my mental and emotional health. And during that time, I realized that I still had some foundations in my business that were still just thrown up there right? I felt like 2023 was one of those years where I just kind of stripped everything down to the studs. And last year, 2024, I wanted to rebuild my foundations. And when I was looking at what I had done before that worked, but now knowing who I am as a projector and inside of my human design, how can I shift that? Speaking is one of my favorite things to do. I love it. And it can also be very draining for me, traveling and being inside of so many different energies at so much at one time, that I remembered our conversation 4 years ago. I'm like, podcasting, that's like the best of everything. I get to schedule it when I have the time and energy. So I'm not pressured to do anything that I don't want to do. And when I want to do it, I can show up in my space, in my, in my authority. And it has really not only helped me say goodbye to past Mel's, which is a beautiful thing to do, it has also really solidified who I am right now inside of this space. I am a human design expert. I am a human design practitioner, and I am extremely passionate to show, especially entrepreneurs, how powerful they already are and where that power lies. So we are done with this copy and paste lemming style boo, and we get into our zone of genius, our process, because that's what's really going to create longevity and sustainability when it comes to the profitability in your life and in your business.
I love it. And you've done some really cool things to amplify your visibility with podcast guesting. So tell us about the Spotify playlist. Because when you did it, I was like, this is genius. I need everyone to do this.
Nobody had done it before. I'm a very one and done person, and I love to keep people updated. I like to repeat myself, but anyway. So I was trying to figure out a way where everybody could just find all the different types of shows that I'm on, because they're not all business focused. They're not all, spirituality focused. There's a big melting pot inside of there. And so I was like, well, I'll just create a playlist. That way on my website, it's constantly up to date and I don't have to keep going back to my website, making sure that my last one was there. And if anybody does want to hear me, they can see which episode actually calls to them, and they can really get what they need or what they're looking for, hopefully, in that time in that period. So yeah, I'm making a new one for 2025 because we are re-upping this year. And it's just been really cool to just give it to people, be like, hey, pick an episode, see how you like it, as well as just continue to give the shows that I've been on, which all of them have been amazing. One of the hosts is actually here. She said hi to me in a private message. It's really cool for people then to see everybody else's shows as well, so they can like and subscribe them and continue to follow the hosts as well as my journey.
Amazing. So that's a huge tip for everyone as a way to amplify, is to make a Spotify playlist. Like one of the tips I gave in session 2 was to share a link to an episode in a call confirmation before a consultation call. Send a link to a whole playlist. And I love that because, there might be some podcasts you were on or topics you talked about that are more relevant to certain people. So I think that's such a great tip. So Mel, any final words of wisdom that you can share, and where can our audience find you online if they're kind of intrigued and they want to learn about how you can help them?
I would probably just piggyback off of what has already been said by everybody here, and the fact that having spaces like this where you can continue to share your story really solidifies and strengthens your connection to it. And it really is about having conversations. I, like Carlos, every now and then have a minor fear that they're going to ask me something about human design that I don't know. But to be fair, human design is the ultimate onion of personal development. And I'm just still teaching myself as well, bits and parts of it. But it's trusting that they're not here to trip you up. They're not here to prove anything one way or the other. It's for people to get to know you. So to relax inside of that, do not feel like you have to coerce it into some sort of pitch or sales talk or anything like that. People are listening to podcasts because they want to get to know you, and they want to continue to get to know you because in that time they have learned to like, know, and trust you. So if you are just looking for ways where you can literally show up, done up from the waist up, and get your story out there, and then have that continue to work for you as you're doing something else over here, there's nothing better than being on podcasts.
We've got a couple of folks, Douglas from Team Interview Connections, Kaylee, who's here attending. They found your playlist. It's in the chat already. So that's incredible. How'd you guys find it? For everyone watching the replay, Mel McSherry Spotify playlist. I'm sure you'll find it. Podcast Guesting 2024. So where can everyone find you, Mel?
So if you would like to get to know me, or if you'd like to chat anything about human design, please feel free to hop on virtualcoffeewithmel.com and you can schedule a complimentary coffee chat with me. Or you can feel free to check me out melmcsherry.com or respectfully stalk me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Amazing. And Kaylee is dropping the links. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mel. All right. So for everyone who's inspired and you're seeing the possibility for your business, book a call with me or Douglas at interviewconnections.com/call. Okay. So for our final speaker, we have the amazing Thurman Trotman. You may have heard his name already in this masterclass because he is a wonderful podcast listener as well as a guest. He heard me on a podcast, and that is how he found Interview Connection. So Thurman, come on up.
Okay, there we go.
I was like, dramatic pause.
Not for me. Okay, first of all, hello to everybody. I love joining these things and seeing real faces of real people. I'm always excited to see a bunch of people in these meetings, even though we're primarily virtual. I'm gonna just replay or restate a concept that I keep being reminded of whenever I come here. I'm pretty sure all of y'all listen to music. And if you consider your favorite artist, think about how your favorite artist might have become your favorite artist. It's highly likely that you were listening to a current artist, and then that artist had someone else on their song. A lot of people find out about new music through their current listening, like through their current playlist. So if you listen to, whoever your favorite artist is, might be small time, might be big time.
Everyone put their favorite band in the comments. I want to know.
Throw your favorite artist in there. And then that artist features with another artist. What that other artist does is they show up on this platform. They get together with this artist and they make a song. The song hopefully is good. But if that song is good and that feature is good, what do? You go and find out more about that artist. You're like, oh man, that was such a good verse, or they played this instrument really well, or wow, what a okay, Rick. Or and yeah, Jay-Z's up there too. Jay's a perfect example. Thank you. You go and seek out that other artist because you're like, oh man, I love what they did here with this artist, my favorite artist. Now I want to go see what else they have in their catalog. Interview Connections is that. They're doing that work for you. If I was an up-and-coming artist, it's going to be difficult for me to play those roles to try to get booked, to try to, write new music, to try to promote myself on social media, doing all these things when the best thing that I could do, where I'm on my highest vibration, if you will, is being an artist. Let me be an artist, and the people around me that need to go get me booked and need to go get me some TV spots and need to go do all these other things, let them do what they're good at while I just be an artist. Some of your favorite artists are probably really good artists because the people around them do what they need to do while the artists they're just being an artist. This is the way I look at Interview Connections. The thing that I need is to do better at my craft. That's what I'm concerned about, because all of that headspace of trying to get booked and get on podcasts and all that other stuff, I don't worry about that. I get one-on-one podcasts and get invited to podcasts on my own, but Interview Connections is every day working on getting me on a podcast with under my criteria, doing the reach out for me. And then when it comes to my part, now it's time for me to book, and it's time for me to show up and drop a crazy verse on this song because I want other people to know about me. That's my role. If you feel like you can fit into that mold, then I don't think this is a decision. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's you probably already know, like Jess said, it's in your gut. It's calling you. You know what I'm saying? You know that if somebody puts you on a podcast, end of story. You can handle the rest. You know what I'm saying? They throw you the basketball, you just got to dunk it. That's it. That's all you got to do here. If you already feel that way, then do it. I don't consider myself a salesman, and I can't speak with my chest about things about that I don't believe in. I believe in this for me because I know how I am. What you see me doing right now is literally how I show up on podcasts. I'm super energetic. I connect with people immediately. I know using my voice is one of my things. That's just one of the things that I'm really good at. If you already feel this way, do it. Just do
I
it.
want
Nike thing.
just do it. Thurman, I love this. And this was so fun seeing, this is the first time that I've asked everyone like what their favorite band is. It's just so fun to see
I'm glad you did that.
Everyone's back, what their interests are. Rick, I noticed your favorite band wasn't dropped in the comments. Rick told me his favorite band on our call, so that's why I'm waiting to see that in the comments. So Thurman, what is your business? Who do you help? What do you do?
Oh, sorry. So if you use Microsoft, right? If you're a Microsoft user, a Microsoft 365 suite, inside of Microsoft, there's a tool. It's called SharePoint. This tool called SharePoint is, to me, their best kept secret. So the way you would use SharePoint, one of the 3 ways that I would encourage you to use it is to manage your business or manage your projects. It's a one-stop shop. You can take any and everything that you manage inside of your business and put it in one area for you and all of your employees to access. Matter of fact, I just got off a call right before this where I demoed their site. Because what I do is I talk to people, they tell me everything they manage in their business. I say, okay, let me get all of that. I go in the lab, I cook up, you know what I'm saying? I come back and then I display their potential website. I just came off of this call with them and they're like, oh my God, this is great. You know what I'm saying? Like we finally can have one place where we go for everything inside of our business. So that's just one way that I use SharePoint. And that's what I do. I help your business get everything in order by using SharePoint. Thurman had me at the Bills. Yes, Rick. So Jess, if you mind me, if you let me indulge real quick. So yeah, and there's a Broncos fan too. All right. So it just, last night I was on a call, not a call, a podcast with her name is Kelly. I forgot her last name, but obviously I was there because of Interview Connections. And I found out that they're in Maryland, like I'm in Maryland. And come to find out, they're Ravens fans. But I'm a Bills fans, and there's a big game coming up this weekend to where hopefully the Bills win because I'm thinking that we will. But with the thing that I'm reminded of from last night is that when you get on these calls with folks, and I think it was Wendy who mentioned the green room, whether it's in the green room or right after, you are talking to a person on the other end, totally no distractions. It's a one-on-one conversation. This is the highest quality of connection that you could have with someone. I know y'all all said, screw social media earlier. Yes, because while you may be able to write like the greatest posts, I'm not negating that. Having these one-on-one conversations with people is a high-quality connection. Even better if they're a potential client of yours, which that's a thing that happens. I know Jess might have talked about it through these master classes. So consider that too. Consider that, if we go back to the artist example, there's going to be some time that if y'all are, in the studio, this is great. If you could be in the studio, you hang out a little bit, you chat a little bit, you get to know each other a little bit. Then you make the song. Then if the song is great, you probably want to make more songs or you want to like hang out and, find out more about the person. It's a beautiful thing. But go Bills. I just want to put that.
Yeah. We have a lot of Maryland folks in the house. That's so fun. Yeah, a lot of collaborations come out of the podcast interviews. And Mel said, I love the interviews. However, the time in the green room before and after is the best. Yes, in the green room, again, we talked a little bit about this in session 2, but before the interview, mostly after the interview, because by then you're all warmed up, you've talked a lot. That's where opportunities come about. It's in the green room after they stop recording, where, for example, the host said to Carlos, I would love for you to do a masterclass for my whole client community. And so now you're getting visibility to a room full of buyers, people that have already invested. It's so, so powerful. Thurman, do you have any best practice? I mean, you've already shared so much, but like best practices, like tips for success, anything like that?
Yeah, I wrote something down. I'm just dying over here at the chat, and I see Jonathan. Jonathan, I'll see you after Sunday. So my favorite tip, or one of them right now, this is the one that came up for me anyway, is get good at being a good guest. Because again, if you go back to that analogy, you could be excellent at your craft, but it doesn't matter if you show up and not show how you're good at your craft. So if you are a great writer and you can sing, but you show up to this thing to perform and you sing a terrible, you do terrible, that's the lasting impression that you leave on people. So like if you, matter of fact, if you're a really good singer and you go do the national anthem at a game, people are gonna remember how you did on that national anthem, especially if they never heard of you before. It's gonna be like, wait, you're talking about the guy who sucked, you know what I'm saying, at the beginning of the game? Or, oh my God, I never heard her sing before or him sing before. That was powerful. I need to go find this person's music. So get good at being a good guest. And one of the best ways of doing that is listening to the person's podcast and then learning how to match their energy. So I might be high energy, but I'm not going to come in hot if the person, you know, they're not, that doesn't resonate with them. So learn how to be good at being a good guest, regardless of whatever work you're in. So,
and also what makes a good guest is being a good storyteller.
yes,
because stories are what keep people engaged. Now, I shared a story. Just let me know in the chat, and I'm rolling the dice here because I don't know what you're all going to say, but like the story that I shared at the beginning of this session, were you engaged? Like, were you like, why is she talking about this? And I want to know what happened next. And like, how was that story to you? Again, I am totally risking this because if I bombed that story, I'm going to hear it right now. But my point is, when you share stories, you engage people so much more than if you're just like giving them tips.
Jess, I was reading the chat when you started that story. I stopped reading the chat to listen to your story. There's a tone of voice that people use when they're explaining what they do versus when they're telling a story. So somebody said, what makes a good guest? To Jess's point, the way that I record my own podcast and the way that I show up on a podcast is I pretend, even though I'm talking to one person, I pretend that I'm talking to one person who I've known forever. That's it. I'm not thinking, how to correctly tell a story. I'm just telling stories the way I always tell stories. And I'm just so happening to doing it with this person. And I'm talking about SharePoint. SharePoint is so boring. So I have a job to do to make it interesting. And one of the best ways to do that is to just tell stories. You know what I mean? So yes, that's one of the best ways. But Luke, I was laughing because Luke said, so be Soldier Boy.
Sharon Lee said Thurman needs to lower his camera so we can see his face, not his hat. But then we wouldn't see the Bills logo. So we would have lost this whole chit chat.
I know, right? Here we go. How's this?
So tell stories. And then one more quick tip around stories. Like we've got to wrap up. It's 2:00 now, but I just want to give one more tip. So to be a good storyteller, it does take practice. And so the story that I shared, I actually went live on Instagram and shared that story this morning. And then I went live on Facebook and I shared it. And then I wrote it out and then I shared it with you today. I practiced that story 3 times before I brought it to this masterclass. So it also takes practice. Okay. So Thurman, we're going to have you share where people can connect with you. And then we're going to do the mic draw. So Douglas, get ready. We're going to do the mic draw. Okay. So Thurman, how can everyone connect with you?
On LinkedIn. Let me share my LinkedIn, but also, let me share my LinkedIn because I'm on there all the time. And let me just say too, I'm not a social media guy, but LinkedIn I have found is great because all I do is show up there and tell people how I can help. And once again, talking about stories, I tell a lot of stories on LinkedIn and weave in, how I can help. So let me just share that. Let me get my link here.
All right, perfect. So we're going to drop Thurman Trotman, Mr. SharePoint on LinkedIn. We'll put that link in the chat. And then Douglas, come on up. Let's do that draw.
What is up, everybody? The drum is still coming in from Amazon. Just kidding. But today's winner is Janice Nesby, or Nesby, but Janice Nesby.
Let's
Janice,
go.
You are the winner.
Congratulations. All right, Douglas will reach out to you to get, is it Jais? Janice? Because I don't see an N, but I see him there. So congratulations. Douglas will reach out to you with your mailing address. And if you want to reach us faster, just email us and send us your mailing address and we'll get that microphone right out to you. Congratulations. All right, everyone. This was so fun. This was a hoot. I loved it. Thank you for being here. interviewconnections.com/call, book your consultation call. Microphone, it's the one I'm using right now, the ATR 2100. I love this microphone. It has been great for me for many, 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 many years. Yeah, thank you for being here. Book your call at interviewconnections.com/call. And this could be you. You could be coming up, sharing your success story on a future masterclass, and I would love nothing more. So interviewconnections.com/call. Come to the bonus session tomorrow, session 4. I'm going to teach you so many actionable ways that you can leverage your podcast interviews, use AI to repurpose them. I'm going to give you a tutorial of how to use a really cool AI tool to take your podcast appearances and turn them into short form videos for social media. So you definitely want to be there tomorrow. I made it the same Zoom link, so it's really, really easy, and it'll be at the same time of day. So 1 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Book your call. Our calendar is starting to fill up. I've got tons of calls tomorrow, Friday, going into next week. So book your call, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye, everyone.